Okay. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to switch back to the code, and I'm going to show you what we were doing. So share screen and PyCharm. Okay. So what we have here is I put the main block of code is going to convert a temperature from degree Fahrenheit to degree centigrade. And we were talking about for loop. So I put the for loop code in so we can do this particular conversion 3 times. Okay. Now, if I gave this to you right here on a quiz for I in range 3, can you please tell me how many times the loop would occur?
Yeah, 3 times.
Okay. What is the only variable in this syntax?
The temperature string.
Nope.
What?
The only variable in the syntax that I have highlighted.
It's I.
Mm-hmm. And what values does I take on?
The temperature Fahrenheit.
No.
What?
No. Only focus on the line of syntax that I have highlighted. What values does the variable that you just said a little while ago go from?
Out of the temperature string, right?
No. So in Python, the syntax for I in range 3, Python looks at the variable I and says, okay, in order for me to loop this block of code that's indented, which is starting at line 13, in order for me to loop that code 3 times, I have to assign a value to the variable I. My question is, what values does I take on to count 3 times?
It's whatever input coming from.
It has nothing. No, it has nothing to do with input. It's the loop syntax. The loop syntax is for I in range 3. I is going to take on the values 0, then 1, then 2.
Oh, okay.
Okay. It has nothing to do with the input. It has nothing to do with anything else because it's just using a variable I to count 0, 1, 2. That's 3 numbers. Okay? Okay, so I'm going to go back to the console, and what I was trying to show you, let's just run this and see what happens. Hopefully it'll work this time. Let's see what it does. Run. Here's my code. And first time I'm going to do 212 degrees Fahrenheit, and it outputs 0 degrees centigrade. Next time I'm going to do it as 32 degrees Fahrenheit, should be 0 degrees centigrade, which it is. And then I'm going to choose 70 degrees Fahrenheit, which turns out to be 21.111111 degrees centigrade. Okay? Now, notice there's 3 temperatures, 212, 32, 70. If I wanted to do this 5 times, I would change my range parameter from 3 to 5. Okay? So that's it. That is using the for loop. Now, you were saying you're still a little bit funny with this. Is there something else that I'm not getting?
I guess it's anything else that comes after it, like how the output from that.
So let's make sure we're clear. The syntax of the for loop has nothing to do with anything else. Input, output, nothing. It's just syntax that says anything below the for loop syntax, which is for I in range or whatever you have, anything that's indented below that is going to be looped. Python doesn't care what the heck you do in that indented block of code. All it cares about is the indented block will execute the number of times in the range parameter, which in this case is 3.
Well, I guess it's if I needed to do anything in between the
Mhm.
entries, between the three loops.
In
How do I work the operations in between?
okay, so be specific. When you say in between what?
Between the loops, like say enter your temperature to convert centigrade, and I want a function, something else done between that and the next loop. I guess I don't know how, I'm having trouble with combining all that.
Okay.
Like,
The block the block of code the block of code that's indented under the for loop. Let me bring this output window down. So everything from 13 to 29. That block of code is exactly the same code that I would be using if I didn't have a for loop. The for loop allows me to loop. It allows me to repeat that block of code, meaning from line 13 to 29, X times. So if I want to repeat it 3 times, you put in range 3. If you wanted to iterate and loop 5 times, in range 5, range 10, range 13. The looping syntax only allows the indented code to be repeated multiple times. That's it. It's that simple. Okay?
okay.
Now, I want you to take a look at something. I'm going to pull this output window up a little bit. You see it says over here, enter the temperature in degree Fahrenheit to convert to centigrade, right? Let's say I wanted to say temperature 1, temperature 2, temperature 3, right?
Yeah.
My looping variable I is going from, what is I taking on? What values? We said it before.
0, 1, 2, 3.
No.
Oh, what? 0, 1, 2.
Right. That's 3 numbers, right? So if I wanted to say, you said that I takes on 0, 1, 2. But if I wanted to print out 1, 2, 3, what can I do to get it to output 1, 2, 3 when I is actually taking on the value 0, 1, 2?
I would add 1 to 3.
Bingo. No. Not add 1 to 3. No. Add 1 to I. Beautiful. So let's do that. In my code, here's my output right here. I'm going to say temperature number I plus 1. So whatever I is, it's going to add 1 to it to display. Okay?
Oh, okay.
For temperature 1, and it's going to, let's see what it looks like. We may have to adjust it. I don't know. Sometimes I can't see it beforehand. So let's just try to run it. We'll try to run one conversion and see what it looks like. Okay. So enter the temperature in degree F to convert to centigrade. I'm going to hit 212. Now what should come out is temperature number 1, colon, excuse me. Let's try it. Press enter. Temperature number 1, colon, 212 degrees Fahrenheit is equal to 100 degrees centigrade. It's a little bunched up, isn't it? So maybe we should do something about that. I'm going to put a tab character in, a tab escape code. Let's try it again. Maybe it looks a little bit better. 212. Looks better. You see the output?
I do.
Now let me put the next temperature in. 100 should, no, 32. I'm going to put 32 degrees. It should be 0. You see it says temperature number 2?
Got it.
So in this particular case, we're actually using the loop variable I to our advantage to actually output something different, right? And the next one is I don't know, I put, what did I put? Like 98 degrees. Okay. Let me run it one more time. And I'm going to put in, enter the temperature to convert. I'm going to say Margaret. Now you're noticing that it didn't give me what I needed, right? I put in Margaret and I'm like, oh, I thought it was asking me for my username, because that's what happens when you're running at 2 o'clock in the morning and you're doing Python programming. Sometimes it'll ask you for something, you're forgetting what it's actually asking. So what it just did was it processed my error detection by going into this block of code right here between 16 and 23 is going to be actually going through and attempting to make sure that the user typed in the value correctly. Now, if you recall, when we started talking about the input function in Python, the input function only allows you to take data in as a string. You cannot do a calculation with a string. Therefore, we have to convert it using the int typecast operator, right? Do you understand me, or did
Yeah, I do. I
okay.
do.
So if you look at line number 18, 18 attempts to convert the data that was received by the input function. Notice that in line 14, the code says input string, I call it input string, temp str means temperature string. It's my way of knowing that what's happening is it's pulling in as a string. Notice there's no int typecast operator or integer typecast operator. So that means that this is going to receive the value that's entered as a string, not a number. Here, I try to convert what was pulled in as a string into an integer and assign that conversion to the variable temp f. If it's successful, it breaks out of the while loop, because the way that this while loop is written, the while loop will run forever. This break allows Python to break out of the while loop. So this is saying, if the conversion that you did works, it's going to jump over this except logic and break out of the loop and then continue on. Is it making sense to you?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Okay. So let's try it and see what it does. I'm going to run it in debug mode so I can see what happens step by step. So I'm going to put a breakpoint right there. Now, what I just did, I'm going to stop the execution of this program so I can see what happens. What I just did was I clicked my mouse, the left mouse button. I'm running a PC. I clicked the mouse in the gray area, this margin, right next to the code that I want Python to stop at. I don't want it to execute this while loop. I just want to see what the variables look like before I continue. So I'm going to run the program again, only in a different way. I'm going to run it in debug, not run. So under debug, which is the fourth option down, I'm going to click on that and run the program. So it may take a little bit longer to start, but it's going to start. So right now, I'm at the line of code where it's asking me for input. So I'm going to put in Margaret and press the enter key. And so what I just did was, as soon as you enter the data, notice that down here on the typically this is just the output window. When you run your program in debug mode, you have two tabs. One is called console, which is an output window, which is what you're typically used to seeing. And this little debugger tab gives you an understanding of exactly what is in all of the variables. So according to this, line 7, it says, I'm declaring and initializing my variables. originally the variables were set at 0, 0, and null, which is an empty string variable, empty string data. Temp F is a 0, temp C is 0, and temp string used to be nothing in it. Now that I just input from the user what the user wants to convert, we deliberately entered a mistake. Put Margaret here, and this is telling us what Python has done. Temp C is equal to 0, which it should. Temp F equals 0, which it should. Temp string is equal to Margaret. That's not good yet. So we're now at line 16, which says, okay, I want you to, forever, I want you to try to convert what the user entered, which is currently held in temp string. Try to convert that to a number. Right here, can you see my screen? I'm hovering over a little arrow.
Yes.
That diagonal arrow, if you hover over it, it says step into, which means do this, execute one line of code at a time. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the diagonal arrow, which says step into, and watch what happens in the program up here. You'll see it go, it says while true. Okay, we just executed that. Now it's saying to try. So Python's going to execute that when I click on that step into key again. So Python's going to say, okay, I'll try, but try what? Notice that at line 18 it says, we're trying to convert what's currently sitting in temp string, which is right down here. Can you see this?
Yeah.
What's currently sitting in temp string is a string called Margaret. If we try to convert Margaret to a number, it's going to fail. Python will send back an error message through PyCharm, and the error is called the value error. Error. I'm saying like that specifically. It's called a value error. Error. And what code here does, it says if you get a value error, output that you didn't get the numeric value for the temperature, try again. And then here's actually there's a syntax issue, right? It's actually a logical issue right there. I said X equals. It really is supposed to be temp string equals. I'm going to stop this and run it again because it was an error. So I'm going to put Margaret. Let's just put 212 the first time. Let's just try that. Okay? This is good. We're going to go through this. So we come to that while true. We have our variables. Notice that temp string is holding the string. You see it says str? 212. This is actually a word, not a numerical value. In order for us to have a numerical value, we have to convert it using the int typecast operator. And we'll get to that in a moment. So we're going to go into the loop. So while true, that means we're there forever until something happens like a break. Let's try to convert temp string to an integer. And if we can, we'll put that conversion into temp F, and then it'll come to the next line of code. So let's try that and see what happens, okay? So I'm going to execute the next line. And notice that it jumped right down to break. That's because we were able to successfully convert, look at the variable list here. We were able to successfully convert the string of 212 to the integer 212.
Okay.
It says break, which means we don't have to stay in the while loop anymore. So let's go to single step. We're going to do the calculation for conversion, and we're going to output all that information to the screen. Now, you need to see this because this is where people get into a panic most often. When they attempt to click on the next step, watch what happens. They click on it, and they're normally used to seeing the output on the screen. And you're saying, what happened? That's because in debug, you have two tabs here. You see that? If you click on console, you'll see what the output is. At the debug level, I'm more concerned with the variables, but you can always switch back between the two. This is what the output looks like. This is what the variables look like. This is the output, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So look what's happened here. We've completely processed the first temperature, temperature 1. Python is now back up at the loop again because we have 2 more temperatures to run, right?
Yeah.
I is currently equal to 0. When I single step, look what I just did. It went to 1. You're not getting quite as excited as I did when I first saw this. This is really powerful stuff because now you can keep, in debug, you can keep track of what's in every single variable that Python is going to use. Okay? So let's continue to single step. Only this time we're going to put a mistake in. We're going to put Margaret this time, and let's see what the loop does. Okay? So it's asking me for my second temperature. Margaret. I'm going to press the Enter key. I'm going to go back into debug mode. Okay, so I actually went into some of the code that Python is actually executing outside of your program. And it looks ugly, but let me keep on single stepping through it so it gets to I'm just going to go ahead. Okay, so we're now currently at the while loop. You see this? Okay, so Margaret is currently sitting in the string variable called temp string, right? We're going to come into the loop, single step. We're going to try to do the conversion. Now, can we convert the string Margaret to an integer?
No.
No, it's going to fail. So watch what happens where this goes. When I try to convert, watch what happens. It says, we got a problem. Python tried to convert Margaret to a number. Python returned an error message, and the error message is called value error. Value error means that you tried to convert a value. There's an error, and you have to process it. If you don't, the program will bomb. And you get that ugly red stuff on the screen. So now I'm going to single step into, I'm going to go back to my output screen. I'm going to single step into the program. Now I'm going to process the error, output to the screen that the user messed up. You didn't enter a numeric value for the temperature in degree F. Try again. I asked the user again for the temperature. You see the output down here? Mm-hmm. Okay. And I'm going to wait. I'm going to put in student. Let's see what it does now. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward. I'm going to press the Enter key. And what's happening now, it's still not doing it right. I put another word in. Weather. Computer.
Stefanelli.
Thank you. Stefanelli. You can't convert these things. All right, fine. I'll put the right information in. Now I'm going to go ahead and put in 32 degrees Fahrenheit. And when I press the Enter key, it is able to process it. Okay? So that's what I meant when I said that the try-except logic, allows you to provide what they call error detection. so that if user puts in the wrong information type or data type, you now have the ability to tell the user you made a mistake.
Got it.
Okay? So I showed you a couple of things today. I showed you the for loop.
Follow.
This is. Please understand when I say what I'm about to tell you, I'm not trying to diminish that you are having a struggle with this. Okay? I'm telling you that the for loop syntax, it's simple. It really is simple. For I in range, for temp in range, for calibration in range, it's a variable that's going to be changed from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, 6. It starts at 0, it goes to X. I can also do it differently. I can do 1, comma, 3, but if I did that, what would I do? Go from what to what?
1, 2, 3.
You would get the answer wrong on the quiz.
You're going from 1 to 3.
No.
No. Yikes.
The biggest error that people make using with for logic, the biggest error is thinking that the second parameter is where you stop. So you say, well, for I in range 1 to 3, 1 comma 3, you think you're going 1 to 2, 1, 2, 3? No, it's 1 to 2. If you want to go 1, 2, 3, you'd have to do this. 1, 2, 3, and it would stop. Okay? You don't believe me, do you?
I do.
If I want to use this method of using the for loop, for I in range 1 comma 4, do I have to do anything in my output statement?
You need to change the I plus. Oh, no, you don't.
Yes, I do.
You do?
Well, if I is equal to 1 the first time, it's going to output the temperature number 2 as the first temperature.
Sure. Yeah.
You still don't believe me. Okay, let's try this. Let's try it like this. Enter the first temperature, 212. Shouldn't that be temperature 1?
You're right.
So what should I change in my output statement? Look at my code.
Should just be I.
Bingo. So you have different ways that you can output, but you got to be careful how you do the for loop. So let me stop it and try it again. This is done all the time. You know, you stop, start, 212. Temperature number 1 is 212 degrees, right? Now I'm going to put the next one in, which is, let's try 32. And I'll try the next one, which is, I don't know, 75 degrees. And I'm done. Notice how many times it ran the program?
3
Right?
times.
3 times, but you see, I wrote the for loop logic a little bit differently, right? I posted it a little bit differently. It makes you, it allows you, because if people say, well, when you see it say range 3, and I need 1, 2, 3, I don't want to have to put I plus 1 in the output statement. So that allows you to do it that certain way. Okay?
Got it.
All right, I'm going to switch back to me and ask you if there's anything else that you needed to talk about.
Nothing.
Okay.
That was my biggest issue.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to have a quiz tonight. It's going to be a little bit of a different format. I really was hoping that people were going to be, a lot more people were going to be here. Not that I'm saying you're not important. I think you're very important. I was going to do an activity using a tool, and it's a little bit differently when you have more than one person in there because you're not going to compete with anybody else but yourself, which is not a good idea. Maybe it is a good Yeah. Maybe you always think you're fantastic if you're only by yourself, right? So if you have any questions, give me, let me know. I will, I'll be close to email, but I will, try to make sure that I get to you as quickly as possible.
So when you say it's a different format, what do you mean? Like the questions or?
Yeah. I don't know. Did you give me some feedback? How did you do with the multiple choice and the questions inside of Moodle?
I think I took too long on the earlier part of the quiz and didn't have enough time to finish.
Any thoughts about what do you think would be better?
I guess more questions broken out as opposed to.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, I'm going to send an email out this afternoon, and I'll give you some information, just kind of repeating and just re-emphasizing we have a quiz tonight. And that's really it. I mean, if you have any questions about coding, I returned all the feedback already, so you have that information. PA number 2 is due tomorrow night.
Okay. I'm here to get comments on lab 4.
What's that?
My lab 4 results. I have yet to get the comments back.
You didn't get lab 4 comments?
Mm-mm.
Did you get a grade?
No, not yet.
Oh boy, did you turn it? Oh, wait a minute. Did you turned it in late?
Yeah, we got an extra day.
That's right. That's right. Listen,
partner, yeah.
And I'll give it to you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Did you submit it in the portal or send it by email?
No, we did it by portal.
Because I didn't get an, every time anybody submits to the portal, I get an email if it runs late. And I should have received, I'll take a look. I'll take a look.
Okay.
In the next hour, I'll take a look and see what's going on.
All righty.
Okay. I hope you have a wonderful.
Thank you for your time.
Oh, anytime. I'm glad it worked out. So I will look forward to talking with you soon.
All right. Thank you.
Have a wonderful night. Take care.